This program is brought to you by the following proud sponsors: the Alltech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, and by California CEO Online Video Business Magazine.
Oh, again, thanks for the opportunity, Jay. Greatly appreciate that, and definitely glad to be here. I must say that this would be my first event of this kind where I am in a kind of a startup launchpad environment. It has always been a more through contacts, traditional networking based previously. So what we have is our startup is LVCO, and why it's LVCO? It's under Larkspur, which has been our consulting brand for last 12 years. Larkspur Virtual Compliance Office, and it's a cloud-based compliance outsourcing platform. In briefly, and I have a slide deck which I'll just kind of run through quickly. So what is LVCO? What LVCO essentially does is you are a doctor's office, you are a surgery center, you are a practice clinic. Right now you are dealing with your HIPAA compliance requirements, you're dealing with systems, you are dealing with regulatory filings, you have taken some meaningful use dollars from the government, you are on the Medicare or Medicaid's list of vendors where they will send their patients to, and then you have the rate agreements and there are star ratings. There's all kinds of stuff around what the regulatory bodies are asking you to comply with. The biggest challenge right now, or I would say the conflict, is even a 10 doctor practice or a surgery center is having to operate with the sophistication of what a corporate IT does in terms of the system security, in terms of keeping up their network secured, in terms of monitoring their infrastructure. And not only that, but they also have to now deal with the changes in the legal framework, the changes that happen. What happens with the Affordable Care Act was a big news. It came out as a big law. But on a regular basis, there are interpretations of the law that keep coming up every quarter, even every month sometimes. And yearly there are modifications in the law. None of these guys ever really know or care about what changed, what happened. They sometimes know after the fact. It comes up in their audit. And as a result, the status quo is almost none of the healthcare providers are truly compliant. Even though you may have an EMR system, you may have other systems which are compliant by themselves. But if you look at a practice, a surgery center, a provider, even a small hospital, they are really, if you go through a thorough audit, there are lots of gaps that are found on a regular basis, and there is just no way they can be compliant. Now, if they truly want to be compliant, they will have to spend the amount of money, and they will have to truly focus on doing IT and doing regulatory procedures, which will take them away from practicing medicine. So what we are doing is we are giving a combination of on-site expertise, a cloud-based workflow platform, and center of excellence, which will outsource this problem entirely. It doesn't mean that we are going to take the guarantee of their compliant. That's not possible as per the definition or interpretation that CMS has already given us, saying that you can't shift your responsibility, but you have to take the meaningful measures to do something about it. And this cloud-based platform, low cost, scalable, and any healthcare provider of any size can use it at a very, very reasonable cost, which takes out all of their compliance workflows. It keeps their network security up to speed, and our team keeps a watch on what's happening in the compliance landscape and adjusts the software accordingly to that the workflow according to the requirements, generate reports, generate filings. Let me take one example. When you have a hack, like Anthem hack. This was probably something that woke everybody up in the medical community. Is if you have a hack, and if you are sophisticated enough to know that you have a hack in your healthcare facility, first thing is you have to go through the logs. Now the logs are such that a human cannot really read it. You need another software to read and make a meaningful use out of it. And then after that meaningful use, what are you going to do about it? And then you need a sophisticated IT expertise to really execute that. That is something which we observed number of ACOs or number of big provider organizations are trying to do in-house because there is no solution in the market. The only thing that we are competing with right now is the consulting firms, be it Deloitte or Accenture or anybody else, who are providing these sort of services to the large players. And there is really no solution out there in the market for small and mid-size businesses. And even in the large businesses, these kind of offerings are just not there. So here is what we are presenting, and this architecture pretty much explains itself. Here's the healthcare provider, a single touch point of managing all of the risk and compliance related requirements. So the risk and compliance knowledge base, what is called the GRC, the Governance, Risk and Compliance Framework, the on-site services, Center of Excellence, and then as we go into the population health management side of things, then the analytics platform to measure your quality matrices, the outsourcing of the back-end services, the dashboard, and the interfaces to the EMR system. What healthcare provider will do is basically sign up with this cloud-based platform, which will give them a complete workflow on a day-to-day basis that they will use within their environment. It's not something that's going to be done outside, or it's not something that's going to be pushed on them. And a workflow that will be managed and supported by the Center of Excellence. So it's a combination of outsourcing service and a cloud-based platform. And the reason for outsourcing is, repeatedly we have heard from a number of healthcare providers is, we don't have staff to do all this admin work. We don't have expertise. We don't necessarily need to know what we need to do. We have heard that enough times from the consultants. We just need to get it done. So it's as a result, it's a platform on which it will be done, and there will be a team that will actually support it. So we anticipate, or our plan currently is, which is where our outsourced development center is, out of Bangalore in India. We have a group getting ready to support that. On-site service is more of a network infrastructure consultant type of service who will be visiting these physician facilities. And then we are currently using a GRC based workflow engine to go through the risk assessment and the compliance requirements and the reporting. The challenge in front of us is, and this is the challenge in front of the market, which nobody has done so far in the marketplace, is how can all these pieces be put together in a one single cloud-based application? And we have figured out a process, a way, and an architecture of that. That's our unique value proposition, which even a company of a sizable magnitude has, I don't think anyone has done it so far. I mean, I'm closely watching the market in this space. I have not found a single company who has actually integrated all pieces from a risk management and compliance management standpoint. So 2 quick examples, just to give you an analogy. ADP in the payroll space. Payroll laws change all the time, the taxes change, everything happens. But we have come to an ecosystem where we don't really care. We just have a contract with ADP. They just pull some amount, they give us reports, they do the filings. We don't care. That's what we want to do for the risk and compliance space here. That if the physicians are going to focus back on practicing healthcare, they don't need to be worrying about what government is watching them for, what system security issues that they have, what filings need to be done, what changed in the law. It's impossible for them to keep up with that. So in some ways, this is the ADP model for risk and compliance in healthcare space. And we are starting with only the healthcare providers right now, because providers are getting mostly impacted by the HIPAA law or the recent Affordable Care Act law, and the migration towards whole electronic medical records that was pushed by meaningful use reimbursements. From that point, we can see that as the Internet of Things is happening, medical devices will be coming into the picture. The healthcare insurance is part of that larger ecosystem. And all these entities, one way or the other, are part of a big sphere. So we are solving one piece of this puzzle for providers, and then we'll expand from that as we mature our platform into this space. We are not trying to do everything. The healthcare space is too big to do everything. We are not touching any of the hardware side of things right now. We are purely dealing with the regulatory side of things. And why it's significant now, in 2 years, as per the Affordable Care Act, as our entire healthcare ecosystem goes towards population healthcare management and value-based reimbursement, the biggest focus for every healthcare provider is going to be, can they pass an audit and maintain their star ratings with CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid, as well as with companies like United Healthcare and Anthem, the payers. So it's something which is, you would not think that it's regulatory, but if you lose the rating, you could take a 20% hit in your reimbursement rates. No, so now it's directly hitting your P&L. This is sort of the platform which is going to help you maintain that.
Great. Well, thank you, Shrini. And we're open up for questions.
As far as, I've noticed you had said that your compliance, your Center of Excellence is over in India. What security concerns and what are the security requirements of the personnel that, because you're dealing with a lot of sensitive stuff in the healthcare space. It's just not, you're not dealing with patients. You're talking about potential security holes, devices that might not be in compliance, vulnerabilities. What requirements does your people, the people of India have to have, and what security concerns does that hold?
So, really two questions. One is the security concerns with respect to the personnel and the facility being overseas, if you will. And secondly, just I think from the standpoint of expertise, I think that's what you're getting to is. What we have done in this model is we have drawn upon existing mature business models from the other industries. So this is, in this case, this team that is going to support us, going back to the previous one. This outsource support is already happening for a number of other domains. So I took an example of ADP. ADP does a lot of back office outsourcing out of various countries. They do a lot of back office support. You don't necessarily get someone on the call when you call ADP, but there is a back office function that happens. Anthem, United Healthcare, Kaiser, just about all of these entities, they have the back office in India. In other industry segments like General Mills or manufacturing space, there is a back office software, infrastructure, network monitoring function that's happening in Bangalore. So what we have drawn upon is we have drawn upon the fact that monitoring network, managing security, and making sure that there is a continuous compliance and risk management in place. If I take a team from VeriSign and just relabel them in Bangalore, that will exactly look like the function. So in terms of the security, it really depends on the infrastructure, the secured infrastructure that we are going to pretty much, we don't have to invent anything, we are just going to copy what's happening and just put it there. So we already have that in place in terms of what is acceptable.
Because I know that in the security space, right, there's most of governments now going to 85, 70 compliance, where everybody that works on a particular secure kind of a network has to have this certification. So-
Yeah, but I think the one big difference here is, and the reason I say that we are drawing from other industries is, if you have to be healthcare specific, the first question that comes to mind is, are we touching PHI? Are we touching patient health information or uniquely identifiable information? In this case, what Center of Excellence is doing, they are not looking at PHI. They are not touching any part of PHI. So if they are not touching PHI, they could be monitoring Sony pictures or they could be monitoring Anthem. Doesn't make any difference. They don't have that stringent requirement. It will come to that, for which that is purely going to be local. So even if I say 1,000 times that we are very secure, but we are going to do this from Philippines, as a hospital, you are not going to be comfortable with that. So that is always going to be on-site function until we reach the maturity in that space. But when somebody is looking at a router, there is much more talent overseas that I see now that we can tap into, rather than trying to get somebody local for that. Second question that really comes in this space always is, one was rightfully the issue here. Second is, why should I care? That's another question that I get from the physicians and doctors is, the government moves the deadlines all the time. It's a healthcare company's problem. The United Healthcare will figure out how to do it and we'll just kind of follow them. That has changed significantly since Affordable Care Act came out. It used to be the health plans problem until Affordable Care Act was passed, and now it's a different ecosystem. And 2 years from now, in fact, the enforcement is starting this year. 2016 is when we anticipate that every healthcare provider facility will be kind of running crazy, almost like chicken with their heads cut off. Okay, now what do we do? Now we are stuck. We are in this space. We are going to get audited. Our reimbursements are on the line. We may get a penalty. We may get a P&L hit. What do we do? So we want to be in a spot a year from now where our platform is mature, it's ready. Go online, sign up, start working with it.
So where are you today? Do you have any customers? How far developed is your system?
So what we have done today is, because it's a continuously growing, big enough undertaking, these are the pieces. So this is level 1, level 2. And these are the pieces we are executing in semi-automated fashion. We are not here, but we are here. And under this, we have a few customers, but that's like doing the work in a consultative fashion. But we are not doing it in a consultative fashion. We are still outsourcing it in a manual way. But that's we can do few things in that, and we can serve a small segment of the market, and we can serve a certain verticals that we keep a watch on, or we make sure that we are serving our customers well. But that's very capacity limiting proposition right now. However, the reason for doing that is we have exactly figured out the process. We have done that process. We have exactly figured out how we are going to do it. And now we are going to take all of these pieces and really automate it into a single cloud-based portal.
What will it take to get you to that?
Right now, we have solved the talent problem, we have solved the team problem, we have solved the experience problem. We are purely lacking the capital at this point. I mean, there is only one problem in front of us, which is capital. Because we have been doing this, we have been in consulting space for the last 12 years in different domains. We have done risk and compliance for other sectors. I personally came from commodities risk, oil and gas. I've done with SOX compliance programs for many, many years. So we are compliance and risk thinkers. In the healthcare space, these are the pieces we started out with. We didn't really start out with, we are going to start the biggest startup on the planet. That was not the vision. We really came together as a group to make a meaningful impact in the healthcare space and started doing the consulting work. And out of our experience, this idea just showed up itself, that this is what is needed.
Have you done an analysis to determine what type of capital you're going to need?
Yes, so we have a projection on that. we have put together a sort of 2 to 3 year rolling capital requirement plan. Our first version of this is really, I mean, it is capital intensive, but not that capital intensive. We anticipate this is a $200,000 proposition in the version 1. And why it is because we are not writing all these pieces. We are leveraging a lot of mature technologies, mature platforms, and we are integrating and bringing them together either in a white label format or having alliances with them.
So does that get you to a point where you can walk into a doctor's office and offer a cloud solution?
Yes, and that's where exactly our limiting factor is right now, because right now we walk into a doctor's office, we'll tell them about outsourcing with these pieces, and we show them that this is where we are going. They like this, they want this, but they don't have this. This directly competes with their IT function internally. And if the IT people are open, they would see this as an asset. In other cases, it's like, oh, it sounds complicated, we have something going on internally, and those sort of discussions come up. But this is what is getting a lot of traction. We have validated that in every situation, every environment, every vertical of healthcare practice. If we can offer this, we'll be running on fire. But because we are here, we are kind of struggling through the path.
So doesn't though, if you're looking for a HIPAA compliance, I mean, you just can't say, somebody comes to you and you say, run through this process, and now your product is compliant. Don't you have to get compliant with HIPAA so that you can issue compliance?
That will happen in the next stage. That may happen in the next stage. But what happens here right now, so let's step back here. What happens here is right now the current status is, even if we take ourselves out of the picture, what does a hospital or a doctor's practice or a surgery center do? They have a consultant come in at the time of accreditation or at the time of audit. A number of consultants come in, they go through the systems, they do all the vulnerability scanning, they do all the reporting. And for that period, they are compliant. 2 months from that, they are out of compliance again, because that is not happening. And here is just a list of different bodies which are monitoring. So today, as a physician practice, you brought consultants in, you did everything, you did the risk assessment, you did the network scan. Next month, you installed a new server. Now you're not compliant anymore. So it's about continuous compliance. And continuous compliance is what this cloud-based platform gives.
So with your compliance section, you basically kind of advise the doctors on how to stay compliant, what steps to take. Can you grade doctors? Is there a way to have...
It's not about that. It's not about grading. It's not about the quality of their service. It's purely about managing. If your system gets hacked as a doctor, CMS will come after you. What measures did you take? So you can prove to CMS that these are the measures that were taken. This was our breach response plan. Nobody has a breach response plan right now other than 10% of the segment. You as a doctor will present to CMS, oh, breach happened, this is our response plan. That's the action. It's not that you will never get hacked. You will get hacked. But do you have policies in place? Do you have procedures in place? Are your people trained to follow those procedures when a certain event happens? And that's what the risk department in a hospital
I'm just thinking from a sales point of view, if you could somehow test or show the doctors where they're already wrong in a way and show them, hey, you're already out of line, you're not doing these steps right, type of thing with your system, then you could get a bigger need.
No, that is, in fact, that has really not been a challenge, because even the moment we step in to speak with a hospital or a healthcare facility, in the first 5 minutes of conversation, we point out 5-10 things which they are not doing. I mean, that's why my observation has been that almost everyone is not in compliance. That's rather a very easy step to establish. What is difficult to establish is they are not able to see an easy solution, which is a cloud-based solution that just go to this cloud-based solution, everything is on the cloud, my compliance reporting is on the cloud, my requirements on the cloud, there is an advisory on the cloud, and we are not telling them what to do, but we are managing that. That's the peace of mind part that they want. They get very excited about it, but when we can't offer that, then okay, let's revisit when you guys come back with something even close to, even in a raw form. But if we can offer that, we would like that. And to give you an idea of the price point, why it is so exciting is, when we put that vision in front of them, their first reaction is, this must be expensive. But then, okay, what about $10,000 a year or some number like that? And are you serious? I mean, that's like not even the change for them. Then the bigger question is, are they going to take this direction or not? Because the price is out of the question at that point.
I don't know how common this might be in the industry, but is there any sort of indemnification that you would do? I mean, when you start talking about a relatively low-cost solution, but yet you're still kind of on the hook to make sure it's right. What happens if the solution doesn't deliver, or somehow we fail even though we're using the solution? Would your organization consider any sort of even like a low cap indemnification?
Well, yes, and that's a great question. I was going to cover that earlier and completely escaped my mind, but that's really one is part of the contract. It's part of the contract that we enter into. But that problem has been solved for us by CMS directly as of September of 2013. CMS came out with a ruling, and for the right reason, that you cannot outsource or shift your accountability. They said it's not that you can't outsource your processes, but they said you can't just say that here's a physician and he is non-compliant and he just outsourced it. Now somehow we are responsible and he is not. And CMS said, sorry, it doesn't work. You might have taken a measure, but at the end of the day, it's just like the tax law. You go to H&R Block, they do the tax filing. If there is an error in the tax filing, they will take the accountability for that. But if you are tax non-compliant for any reason, the IRS, it's your responsibility as far as the IRS is concerned. That problem has been solved by CMS. We are providing a very effective tool to the compliance and risk officers within these facilities to stay compliant.
So you're providing just a portal to the compliance agencies, is that what you're doing?
We are providing the compliance portal with outsourced management of it. And one more comment that I would add to that is, as per the HIPAA law, every healthcare facility, every healthcare provider's facility, no matter how small, you may be one doctor office, you may be one dentist office, there is one person that has to be legally designated as the chief compliance officer. You may not see that in a small facility. In a big facility, there will be an official chief compliance officer. In small facilities, typically it's a practice administrator. And they are on the same level of accountability as the CFO is under Sarbanes-Oxley. If something happens, that person's name and phone number is on the CMS database. That's the person who's going to get called if there is something that's going to happen, or if there's going to be an audit or something. They are the chief compliance officer. They are accountable for that. Every healthcare facility has a chief compliance officer. This becomes a tool which makes them very powerful.
This program was brought to you by the following proud sponsors: the Alltech Media Group, the region's leading multimedia video production and marketing company, and by California CEO Online Video Business Magazine.